What's up, everybody? Welcome to Thursday in the Awesemo NBA Strategy Show. We will, of course, have the DVD pull much later in the show. We'll visit Odd Shopper. We will cover it all and spend a whole lot of time on DFS. He is Josh Engleman, a regular contributor to this show. You can see him Monday through Friday. I'm Adam Kaufman. Pleased to parachute in every once in a while and spend some time with you as well. And Josh, even on a night when Russell Westbrook's price is all sorts of jacked up, the man still responds. He gets you 70 plus fantasy points, and then we have the night cap by James Harden saying, I'm really good at this game. So anyone who doubts me, come at the king, basically. What's up? How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Final Thursday strategy show of the regular season. We're going out big, 9 games, and I assume there's going to be all sorts of shenanigans as we get closer to lock. So make sure you're watching Tip-Off Show, Deeper Dive, live before lock later tonight, because if you're not, you are going to lose tonight. I promise you that.
What the people in the chat, the people viewing in my account, and all really want to know is, what does that mean for us going forward?
I don't think we know yet.
This is high stress. I don't think it's the last time, but heaven forbid, folks. Maybe we'll just be doing like play-in tournament games this time next week.
That's what would be there'd be what, a 2-game slate or something next Thursday, probably.
Something
that
wild.
Would be it. And then after that, cross our fingers.
Yeah, you want to think we can't get nuts with shenanigans. Just wait until there's an hour to fill and 2 games on the docket. It can happen. Speaking of which, by the way, so you have almost all playoff teams clinched at this point. Just a couple games left in the regular season. In the East, in no particular order, it will be the Sixers, Nets, Bucks, Hawks, Heat, and Knicks. I guess the particular order is just that's where it stands right now. In the play-in tournament, you will have the Celtics, the Hornets, the Pacers, and then either the Wizards or Bulls. We will see how that unfolds. And then over in the West, Jazz, Suns, Clippers, Nuggets, and Mavericks have clinched, it appears, at this point in time. The Blazers and the Lakers still battling between final playoff spot or obviously play-in tournament. And then you got the Spurs and the Kings who are jockeying for that play-in tournament. Who wants it more or less, depending on how you perceive it, because obviously, some teams are still out there looking for a better draft slot. But I don't know. I mean, regardless of how you and it's the royal you may think of the play-in tournament. Like, I don't particularly like it as more of a traditionalist. I'd rather the NBA lets more than enough playoff teams or teams in the postseason to begin with. It's more than half the league. I think the way that they've been doing it is just fine. You can have your top 8 per conference. You don't need an additional tournament to determine the final 2 seeds. But there is no arguing, Josh, that the league has gotten it right in terms of generating an extra level of interest and maybe minimizing the whole tanking thing, which is, of course, what they're guarding against. And, just having more and more interest in teams that wouldn't otherwise be part of the conversation right now. So it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere.
I know, and I hate it. It appears to be working for what the league was looking for, but I am not a fan. I touched on it yesterday. It's just not for me. I don't care that the 33 and 36 San Antonio Spurs have anything to play for. If they wanted to be more interesting, they should have won more games and been better. I don't care that the 32 and 38 Washington Wizards have anything to play for. I don't know why we care to reward the 10th best team in the NBA with a shot at going to the playoffs and getting their ass handed to them by the Sixers, but apparently we do. And, that's fine. Whatever. Wake me up when it's the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you entirely. So we'll see how the play-in tournament goes, how it works, all that stuff once everybody gets there. But at least teams or fans of those teams, and certainly just general NBA fans, there'll be an interest level. So we'll see. But again, we've got a busy slate today. Josh mentioned it off the top. You got 9 games that are coming your way, and there are clearly playoff and seeding implications on the line. Not something that generally affects DFS unless you just want to say, okay, well, more guys will be playing. There'll be fewer resting, and, blowouts probably won't be as significant a thing. We will find out. But, all that to come. First, before we get into that, as we like to begin these shows, what about a little Fantasy Cruncher lineup study? What are you seeing?
That's a great question. And when I pull it up, I will absolutely let you know. But I can say this, it's not going to show up in lineup study because FanDuel doesn't allow it. But kudos to Rinpack taking down the FanDuel 50K yesterday. So I
Nice.
saw that as I opened the app and woke up. I don't have the ability to pull. I mean, obviously we could pull up like the actual standings, but Rinpack at the top of the heap. Then last night was an absolute destruction for the 150 maxers, which doesn't surprise me at all. On days where plays are obvious, you're going to see a lot more at the top for the 150 maxers because they are less likely to move away from actual good plays. And the good plays were fantastic yesterday. Guys like Talen Horton-Tucker went for 10x, Peyton Pritchard 10x. Kobe for MVP takes it down, but Brick finished fourth, Rinpack finished fourth, so he almost did the double yesterday. Alex was in 13th. We had a ton of lineups up there at the top, but Kobe for MVP taking it down by 4.75 fantasy points. Russ, Kira Lewis, Talen Horton-Tucker, Kevin Love, Andre Drummond, Trae Young, Kyle Kuzma, and Peyton Pritchard. And a lot of those plays, Russ, THT, Drummond, Pritchard, Kuzma, Trae Young, like they were 20 plus owned, some guys in the 40s. You didn't have to overthink it yesterday. The good plays just smashed.
Yeah, taking a look at it, even some of the smaller contest guys who went off, many of the names that you mentioned, but, in order to win, you needed guys like Mike James in your lineup, for instance, who obviously, min guy went for about 23 DK points, had that fire emoji. But yeah, there was certainly popularity for whether it was Russ, Fournier, Drummond. Brown's another guy. Bruce Brown's another guy that kind of snuck into some high lineups. Obviously, Kyle Kuzma, who went for almost 50 fantasy points. An electric night, which was good to see after the night before that was a little bit quieter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if we're looking at just the guys that showed up in the top 1% on DraftKings last night, Talen Horton-Tucker was in 98% of the top lineups. Russ second, Peyton Pritchard third, Kuzma and Drummond fourth and fifth. And all of those guys looked like, I mean, obviously it was a little harder to tell that those Lakers guys were great plays at lock, but we knew once we got the news, Talen Horton-Tucker was the best play on the slate. We know what you're getting out of Russ. Peyton Pritchard looked good. Got a little squirrely once Tremont Waters was ruled the starter, but you should still have had quite a bit of Peyton Pritchard on DraftKings, at least at 3,100. On FanDuel, it was a little bit different because $3,500 minimum changes the game up a little bit.
Well, thank you all for hanging out here with us. Want to tell you about our sponsor. That is, of course, No House Advantage, taking a different spin on daily fantasy sports by offering player prop contests across, naturally, the NBA, MLB, NFL. When that returns, and we have the schedules out, folks, PGA, all for cash prizes as well. This exclusively peer-to-peer fantasy sports platform levels the playing field, makes it easier for you to win real cash as compared to your traditional DFS sites. And with over 500 player props offerings, No House Advantage is offering it's the largest provider of player props in the industry. The best part is new users will receive a $20 match deposit bonus today with the promo code that is Awesemo. Awesemo, the promo code, and beat your friends, not the house. Download in the App Store the No House Advantage app. Win big with player props today. I mentioned, by the way, and we could spend time on this. We won't. It's not remotely relevant to this show, but just real quick, NFL schedule coming out last night, and the leaks, the reporting all throughout the day. Are you an NFL schedule guy? I have to guess the answer is no.
I'm not an NFL guy. Least favorite sport of all the majors.
Is that right?
Yeah, I can't stand it. I really do not enjoy playing NFL DFS. I do it because it's my job, but it is my least favorite thing to cover.
I was going to say your Sundays must be wide open then.
I usually do live before lock because I care the least about it. And most people that are wanting to play heavy volume don't want to do a live before lock show. So I happily eat that show up. And that's fine by me. It's an easy show to do, reacting to news. But yeah, I don't care at all about the NFL. I hate it.
Well, you do care about the NBA. So let's get into that.
I do. I care about the NBA a lot.
So we have got just overarching, the players that are available tonight. Nick Jokic is in the best spot in terms of your pay up options, it would seem. And Alex has him projected about 5.5x value, despite the $11,000 price tag on DraftKings. Along with him, there's Giannis, there's Sabonis, there's Cat, Embiid, Vooch, Randall. That's that top tier. Randall, Young, they're in pretty good spots as well. Damian Lillard, maybe not as much. Butler, he's kind of in that conversation as well before you start to get into that next level. But who stands out to you most among the most expensive guys?
Probably Jokic, even at the top of the heap, 11K, but a matchup pace up spot against Minnesota. Clearly not worried about Towns' ability to slow him down. So I prefer getting to Jokic. Giannis scares me. He grades out really well on a per minute basis. There's just no telling how many minutes he plays. There's not a lot for the Bucks to have to play for there, but it's a great spot against Indiana. And then similarly, flipping it on the opposite side, Sabonis for 10-7 on DraftKings would be my third. So that I am ranking them in order: Jokic, Giannis, Sabonis. After that, you get to Embiid, Vooch, Towns. I'm not as interested in the bottom half of that 10K range. After that, I would get into the mid nines, the Lillards, the Randalls, the Trae Youngs.
James Hood in the chat. I'm just here for the DVD pull. Well, you've got almost an hour, so hang with us. But maybe for the last regular season day of this show for the two of us together anyway, it will be a really good one for you. Appreciate all the birthday wishes in the chat, which are always a standard. And, keep active in that chat with all of us folks, because we are here, we're reading it, we're looking at it. I'm maybe more so me than Josh, but I will point out the important things to Josh that he needs to react to. And let's see. So we will smash that like, by the way, while you're here and watching on YouTube. Let's get into it. Let's look at the Clippers and Hornets first. And important to note, by the way, you've got 7 o'clock lock Eastern time. So we'll start with the Clips, those being the road team in that first game. And so nobody expected to be out as things stand right now, who is notable, of course. Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, they are both expected to play as things stand. You got Zubac, you got Morris Sr., you got Jackson. I would say some good value options in DeMarcus Cousins, in Patrick Beverley, maybe Beverley even more so. I don't know how you feel about the studs tonight. Kawhi maybe more so than George. What are you looking at?
Two options and two options only, and I don't like them nearly as much as the ownership shows. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are both projected for north of 20% ownership on FanDuel, where Paul George is 7,800. Kawhi Leonard is 8,200. I understand how those prices can both be appealing. I have no concept if these guys even play today. I don't think it's a very good spot. I don't see them getting run into the ground from a minutes perspective. We saw George get 33 minutes and Kawhi 30 the last time out. They just don't have a lot of incentive to play a ton. So I gave Paul George 34 minutes. I gave Kawhi 32. To me, they're guys you want to see in like 10 to 15% of your lineups, not 20 to 25. And then on DraftKings, I'd have a much easier time having nobody from the Clippers. We have Kawhi and Paul George just slightly cresting the 10% ownership mark. I wouldn't be mad if I didn't have them show up at all. Reggie Jackson for 4,500, if his minutes rebound into the high 20s, could be an okay value option. But I find the Clippers to be pretty difficult to get to, and I would keep a close eye on it. Luckily, this game is at 7 o'clock, but it would not surprise me at all to see one or two of these guys sit out, because while they still have something to play for, they're not like completely locked into anything. The Clippers have a 13% chance of finishing as the 2 seed, a 62% chance of finishing in the 3 seed, and a 25% chance of being in the 4 seed. But I don't think that they're going to be jockeying for anything in particular. Their goal is to just make sure that Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are healthy at the end of the year.
Yeah, be as fresh as you possibly can be. Other side of this game, you got the Hornets, and just again, broad strokes, I don't think I like anybody in this game right now, at least on that side, which means this game in general is something I might be looking to fade.
The highest owned guy on either FanDuel or DraftKings for Charlotte is LaMelo Ball on FanDuel at 9.6%. I think that seems about right. And I agree that no one else should be in double digits. Maybe a little Devontae Graham on DraftKings at 5,900, but he's well overpriced on FanDuel. I see Charlotte as one of the worst teams today. I have them tied with Miami as my 2 least favorite options on the slate. So Clippers Hornets is not a game that I'm going to be getting to with very much volume.
Isaac says in the chat, it's a Jokic Sabonis top stack for me today. How are you feeling about that right now, as we're still almost 9 hours away from lock?
I have no problem with that.
Okay.
None at all.
Alan says, DVD poll, what about Bob as my pick? That would be something. People actually able to nail a prediction on the DVD poll. Not even knowing what is on the wall, but calling for your selection as well.
That would be a hell of a pick, considering how many DVDs are on the wall behind you.
Got our man Jordan, our producers, in the chat talking about Hooters Wings, by the way. And if they're looking to sponsor the show, we'd love that. You know, you can work in part with No House Advantage. You offer different things, clearly. You know, it's just perfect. It makes sense. You were talking wings, you know, pre-show. Jordan is just, he's carried the conversation over into the chat.
I mean, Hooters wings are good. You just got to make sure you get them naked. Breaded wings, there's a special place in hell for you if you like them.
If you're not able to watch your favorite Awesemo shows on YouTube, almost all of the Awesemo YouTube shows are available through the Awesemo Podcast Network. And in addition to that, obviously, the shows are archived on YouTube. They're available for you long term. You could go back. You could listen to the very first show we did together if you wanted to. Don't know why you would, but you could. It's there, and that's really the point. But on the Podcast Network, we have a podcast for every single sport, available on every major platform as well. Head on over to awesemo.com/podcast. Check out the very latest. Just leave a 5-star rating and review on one of our podcasts. Use your Twitter handle or email address. You'll be eligible to win a free week of Awesemo Plus Platinum, folks. And one winner will be awarded every single Friday. That is tomorrow. Reviews eligible to win for up to 1 year. So don't feel like it's a one and done for you. If you only want to do it that one time, that's okay. But remember, doing it more than once, that's just gives you better opportunity to win, right? More options. So something to think about as you go and kindly rate our shows. So Milwaukee Bucks, not the top seed in the East, as we know, but they are in action on the road in Indianapolis. And, you know, there's Giannis, clearly. He's priced up. There's, you look at Holiday, Middleton. There are no real great value options. I don't like the Bucks tonight as things stand right now, is what I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's tricky. So Giannis is picking up a ton of ownership on FanDuel. And to a degree, I agree with it just because of having to roster 2 guys at every position. We're going to have infinite value. So paying up for him becomes really easy. So he's projected for 30% ownership, and I agree with it. He's at 20% on DraftKings. And for the most part, I agree with it. I don't have a ton of interest in Drew or Chris or Dante DiVincenzo because I just don't think the minutes are going to be there. The problem here is that this is a fantastic matchup. Not that great of a defense from Indiana. Pace up spot for Milwaukee. I think they gained 3 possessions over their average. So, and the total is massive. This is the highest total game on the slate. I have Giannis in for 32 minutes, which I think is like a pretty realistic spot. I don't see a lot of ceiling 35, 36 there. Definitely 27 or 28 is in range, but to me, there's no reason that he can't go for 60 fantasy points in 30 minutes. Like, we're talking about a guy that's a 1.7 fantasy point per minute guy. To have a slightly higher outlier performance seems pretty reasonable today. So I think that he can still get there given the matchup. I just feel like what we know about this scenario, it's hard to... I don't think that he has the same sort of right tail outcomes as everybody else would given the matchup. So I'm going to try to be at least a little bit muted with Giannis, but I do think the 30% on FanDuel is reasonable. If you get Drew or Chris Middleton, like, don't freak out about it, but I don't really see a ton of good options in Milwaukee.
Bucks aren't going to move either in the standings, whereas the Pacers right here, obviously there's the potential that they bounce around. They're locked into the play-in tournament, but you know, if they care about who they're facing, that type of thing, as they should, by the way, then they are, you know, this game is of importance to them. So looking at the other side here for Indiana, someone had mentioned Sabonis earlier. I don't think actually on DraftKings he's in a great spot, but there are some good pay down guys here after Karis LeVert, who's not that great either necessarily in terms of just his price, you know, points per dollar. But TJ McConnell, Doug McDermott, Justin Holiday, you could look at, well, probably not Brissett, but you got you know, Goga as well. I mean, these are the guys that probably jump out, kind of the mid-tier guys other than Goga, who's close to the minimum. What do you think?
To me, it's 2.5 guys, and it depends on what site you're playing on. On FanDuel, there are only 2 options to me. It's Domantas Sabonis at 10,500, who is only projected for 20% ownership. I'm actually higher on him than the current public. I have him at about 28, so I'd be more likely to get into the 30s on Sabonis. I think Karis LeVert for 9K on FanDuel, also going a little under-owned at 13%, because these guys are playing north of 36 minutes every single game, so that gives me some interest. We have we have McBuckets at 3,700 picking up 10% ownership. Not sure I'm feeling that one, but he could certainly fall into those minutes. But I think anybody in the Justin Holiday, McDermott, Aaron Holiday, O'Shea Brissett group could pick up like 4 extra minutes and be viable. I just don't know who that's going to be. On DK, I feel the same way about Sabonis and LeVert. They are the two guys that I'm most interested in. But if Aaron Holiday plays, I've got him in for 26 minutes at 3,600. He's not picking up any ownership, but he is questionable. If he's in and can play that mid-tier minutes, I at least have a little bit of interest in Holiday just because of the price tag. And maybe they give him a little bit of extra run considering he's playing against his brother.
We got a few hundred people.
This is the whole crop of holidays today. Aaron Holiday, Justin Holiday, and Drew Holiday. This is the holiday game.
And it's the Thursday, which is almost the weekend, and that feels like a holiday.
It's almost a holiday.
I'm going with it anyway. Hit the like button. Let's get to 100. One big push to 100. We're almost there. Appreciate you. Thanks for watching along here on the NBA Strategy Show. Josh and Kauf, you've got a lot of great stuff to keep an eye on over the course of the day today as well. For instance, of course, lineup news. Josh, you know, the two of us, we talk about it all the time that, you know, what's true right now will not necessarily be true as you approach lock. So you want to stay on top of all the news, not only with Awesemo's great shows like the tip off and live before lock and everything like that's going to come up later on in the day, but on Twitter as well. You got the Awesemo NBA Twitter handle. You got our guy News God, who I don't know if he's in the chat right now, El Negro Loco. I haven't seen him yet.
I don't know.
A little late to the party maybe, but I'm sure we will. Either way, he's getting his rest in before giving you all that key information later on, because the man aggregates it better than anybody else. Latest on injuries, starting lineups, minutes. You know, if Kawhi does get ruled out a minute before lock, things to keep an eye on, obviously. Awesemo NBA Twitter handle, and you've got the News God Twitter handle. It is at NewsGod, NEWZGOD_DFS. Catch the deep dive article today with Ship My Money. It's free all season long, and a lot of great insight if you are playing NBA DFS. You do not want to miss that either. Going, there he is. Did someone say news? It's like we threw up the bat signal for degenerates.
Kind of is.
News? I'm here. I like it.
We got the News God here.
Love the News God. Orlando and Atlanta is our next one here of these 9 games. Number 3 for us. Not a lot of great options on the Magic. Maybe some decent value. No one is priced up real high. You know, Mo Bamba at 7,300. I don't think anyone's going to go near him. That's the most expensive in general. Who do you like, if anyone, here for the Magic?
If you want to go to Cole Anthony at 5K on FanDuel, I won't fault you. Brazdakis is 3,500. If that's a roll of the dice that you want to pay down for, go for it. Don't play Orlando.
All right.
If Mo Bamba gets ruled out, I think there's at least a little tiny bit of interest in Wendell Carter, but he's already priced up. So my recommendation would be to not play Orlando, guys.
So for the Hawks, then, you know, we've seen Trae Young go crazy of late, and he is north of 9K. He's obviously in a good spot, though. You could go half his salary, go for a guy like Kevin Huerter, who's in a good spot in terms of returning value. Not too many other good options necessarily on the Hawks, but anyone stand out to you?
Trae Young is 8,600 on FanDuel, and I will continue to go to that well until they price him up a little bit more. It went very well yesterday, and I'm expecting it to go quite well again today. I think Capella and Bogdanovich on FanDuel, 7,800 and 7,300, both about 10%ers. On DraftKings, these guys are a little bit more expensive. So Trae Young at 9,100. I don't like him as much as I like him on FanDuel, but to me, he is still a core option for today. After that, for Atlanta, it's tough. I don't know if I want $7,500 Bogdanovich. Clint Capella is 8,500. That's kind of tricky. So really, the only priority that I have coming out of this game in its entirety is Trae Young.
Okay, keep smashing that like button. Appreciate you. Hit the subscribe button, by the way, in the Awesemo YouTube page. We are working our way towards 75,000 subscribers. That's what happens when you get to 50. You just throw on the next goal, and let's keep the momentum going. So hit subscribe. We appreciate it. For Philly and Miami, first Philadelphia, anybody that you like on the Sixers, it doesn't look like there are any great must-have plays tonight.
Yeah, this one, I can only imagine that either they're going to rest guys here or they're going to not play anybody heavy minutes. Philly is, for all intents and purposes, locked into the 1 seed. They would have to lose out and have like very specific things happen for them to fall out of it. So I would like to get to a little bit of Joel Embiid at 9,500 on FanDuel, but at the same time, I don't know how viable that is. Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris are 7,107K. They're projected for 15 to 20% ownership, but we've been talking about it all year. Matchups against Miami aren't great for DFS. And if these guys don't have to push it, I don't really see them as fantastic options. So I would rather fade Philly, wait for news, because if any of these guys get ruled out, I think we could open value up for Philly. But if everybody is in, this is not a spot where I'm trying to get to 76ers.
All right. We got the other side of that game, obviously, for the Heat. And let's see. What do we like here? Jimmy Butler's in a good spot. Goran Dragic is in a good spot. Maybe not Bam Adebayo, Kendrick Nunn, or Trevor Ariza. Tyler Hero has been inconsistent, obviously. You're going to go, pay way up, at least for this game anyway, and that being Jimmy Butler.
Not really. It's crazy how little interesting options there are early in this slate. That's going to pick up considerably in a little bit. Bam for 8K on FanDuel, I don't mind. Jimmy for 83 or 9,300 rather on FanDuel, to me is like a 10 to 15%er. But no one on DraftKings for Miami is north of 7% ownership, and that's exactly how I feel. If you ever want to roster Jimmy Butler or Bam Adebayo, you're never going to hear a peep out of me. That makes a ton of sense. There's like rostering any sort of stud is always in play. The Heat are either 44% to be in the 5 seed or 53% to be in the 6 seed. So while you obviously want to have the better, like you're always playing for something. The Heat don't strike me as a team that are going to just like punt. Jimmy Butler doesn't really have that sort of personality. Mm-hmm. And if that's the case, like if Philly sits Embiid, I start to like Miami a little bit more. But for right now, this is two defensive teams in a relatively slow pace matchup with everybody priced where they should be. It's hard to find priorities.
Halfway home on this NBA strategy show. Any questions that you've got about tonight's slate as things stand right now, get them into the chat. We will take a look at them, obviously, throw them at Josh, and he can give you that expert knowledge, the expertise that he is here for, quite frankly. You probably see the Awesemo avatar all over the DFS leaderboards, by the way. It's for good reason. Yeah. If you rock the avatar on your DFS profile, you will win a free month of Awesemo Plus if and when you finish within the top 3 of any GPP of at least 5,000 entries, folks. It's not easy. Same time, we see it all the time. So we encourage you go and check out the avatar. It's very easy. Head to awesemo.com/announcements/avatar, or you could just Google search Awesemo avatar. Easy instructions to download the image and then put that thing right there to represent you. When you finish well, you can basically get some free money with the equivalent of a subscription right there. So we like it. Spurs Knicks, Josh, and for San Antonio, there's maybe not DeMar DeRozan tonight, but DeJounte Murray. You got Podol's in a good spot. You got Keldon Johnson. Maybe Lonnie Walker, not necessarily. Kind of a mid to high looking setup for the Spurs right now. What do you think?
This is a really tough spot for San Antonio. It's obviously a terrible matchup against the Knicks. We're talking top 5 defense, slow pace. But DeMar DeRozan and DeJounte Murray are 7,400 and 7,200 on FanDuel and pretty comparably priced on DraftKings. In a different scenario, I would like getting to them. But we saw the Spurs yesterday get stepped on a bit. They opened up their rotation a little bit wider, didn't go as extreme with minutes. And I don't know if they will, because they are 99% to get the 10 seed. They can't move up any higher. And barring fully losing out and the Kings fully winning out, they don't have anything else to worry about there. That's the only mechanism where they're going to miss the playoffs. They are, by all accounts, in with any win or any Kings loss. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if San Antonio didn't go full bore on any of these guys, at which point tough defensive matchup, slow pace matchup, and nobody getting the minutes that you really want while they're all already priced the way they should be. So news is paramount here. It wouldn't shock me if DeMar DeRozan didn't play in this one or something along those lines. They can afford to be a little passive in the way that they either play guys or set up their rotations. I mean, 24 across the board for a lot of these guys is in play. So while I do like DeRozan and Murray a little bit, they are my 2 preferred guys. I am treating these guys with kid gloves. I'm really nervous about getting to Spurs today just because of their setup for the playoffs.
Jordan says in the chat, I don't want to hear that name, Keldon Johnson, after yesterday.
Yeah, I had him in a relatively highly ranked lineup that was not fun to see.
Not pleasant. All right, you got the Knicks then, and it's really the opposite of the Spurs, Josh, because everybody is pretty appealing, at least based on Alex's, our own Awesemo, our own Alex Caruso. He is, as we like to call him, obviously Alex Baker. He is in the, he's got everybody projected pretty well in terms of those top tier guys. Julius Randle, R.J. Barrett, Derrick Rose, Reggie Bullock, Nerlens Noel, even all these guys projected to be a good return on their price point. What do you think?
So the Knicks still have stuff to play for. Obviously, they've clinched, but still have a 33% chance of being the 4 seed, which means hosting a first round playoff series, 23% at the 5, 44 at the 6. So there's a lot of wiggle room for the Knicks. The problem is most of these guys end up not looking all that great, and they do have a couple Q tags on people. So we could see more interesting stuff open up. Like if Derrick Rose sits, something in that like quickly Elfrid Payton, Frank Ntilikina range is going to pop up. Whether or not Burks plays, I'm not entirely sure. On FanDuel, it's 2 guys and 2 guys only. Play as much Julius Randle and RJ Barrett as you would like. I have them both as north of 20% chances of being in the optimal lineup. That's where their ownership is. None of that should be all that surprising. It's the same story on DraftKings, just a little bit more muted. Randle 9,400 there. Barrett 6,500. I have them in the optimal about 15% of the time. That's exactly where their ownership is. So no matter what news we hear, other than these guys being out, you can play Randle and play Barrett and not even worry about it. They're both playing like 38 minutes a game. If we get any of these guys ruled out, in particular Derrick Rose, like Elfrid Payton is the flat minimum on FanDuel and 3,400 on DraftKings. That's going to open up Elfrid Payton if Rose isn't in this game. So you need to pay close attention to the news for the Knicks. But Randle and Barrett work so long as they're in the game.
So looking at, again, Alex's projections and moving to our next game, that's Toronto and Chicago, you would think the man is basically telling you, I haven't gone through the lineup builder exercise to this point in the morning. No, obviously you've taken a dive into that. I mean, basically it's roster the entire Toronto Raptors squad, whether it's Flynn, Trent, Birch, Harris, you got Yuta, you got Gillespie, Bembry, Stanley Johnson, all of these, everybody with the exception of Birch is projected for 6.5x value or better, all the way up to like 9. How many of these guys would you like to work into your lineup as things stand right now?
I mean, all of them, literally all 8 of the guys that are active for the Raptors today are viable in some sort of way. They're picking up the most ownership. They're the best plays on the slate, bar none. And it's really hard for me to tell you how to prioritize any of them. For example, on DraftKings, Flynn, Harris, Watanabe, Trent, Gillespie, and Stanley Johnson are all 23 to 33% to be in the optimal lineup. And that's exactly where their ownership is coming in. These guys are the most owned guys, and they should be. But I touched on this like 2 days ago, maybe, and I touched on it again in my contenders video. If I just take the total of the odds of being in the optimal on DraftKings for Toronto, it's about 200. So even though I'm saying that like 7 Toronto guys are in the top 10 plays for today, the most likely scenario is 2 of them are in the optimal. 1 in the optimal is the second most likely scenario. So you have to understand sort of the way that this data works. In cash games, you're going to be playing a bundle of these dudes. There's no way around it. They're going to be the most efficient plays that'll allow you to pay up elsewhere. But in GPPs, 2 to 3 in each lineup, I think is where you want to be. And I don't really think there's an easy way to figure out who's going to be the guys that benefit. Everybody's going to have to play big minutes because they only have 8 bodies. The starting lineup will be most important. I'd say that Kem Birch, Gary Trent, and Malachi Flynn feel like the safest options, the guys that I think do play north of 30 minutes. But you can pick these names out of a hat as far as I'm concerned. The guy that I like the least is actually the guy that's picking up the least amount of ownership, which would be Kem Birch, because he's sort of already priced for the role that he has. However, if he really is 4% owned, then I like him a lot in GPPs if he's the guy that's being fully left behind. So I'd be happy to have him in like 12 to 15%, but there's not a single bad option you could take for Toronto. It's a slight pace down spot against Chicago, but Chicago's defense is really bad. Just play the Raptors.
It's funny, you identifying the safe plays, and obviously personal bias comes into play a lot of the time. We're doing stuff like this. It can't always be analytical, and I have been burned more than once by Malachi Flynn. He makes me uneasy even putting him in tonight.
I mean, I feel that way about every single one. Like, there's no one where I'm ultra confident. Like Gary Trent would be my favorite guy because he's 4,900 on FanDuel. To me, he still only hits his target score like 30% of the time and shows up in the optimal 30% of the time. That means that more frequently than a coin flip, I will be not happy with Gary Trent. And that's the outlook for every one of these guys. So it's an aggregate thing, not an individual thing. You're not going to feel comfortable with it, but you honestly have to be playing all of them if you're maxing. And if you're playing, one lineup tonight, best of luck figuring out which Raptor you want to play.
Jordan wants to know if you have a top 3 Raptors on FanDuel.
Freddie Gillespie, Gary Trent, Yuta Watanabe. And that is all, that could very easily change by lock.
Yeah. Again, as things stand right now, it's what we always tell you. So let's go to the other side of that game then. Look at the Chicago Bulls where it's kind of the opposite, right? I mean, you got Vooch, you got Levine, you got Kobe White, but no one's automatic here. Not in the same way that we were just talking about Toronto. Who stands out?
Nobody. Highest owned guy we have on either side, FanDuel or DraftKings, is 7.8% owned Zach LaVine. And I agree with it. I don't have anybody higher than 7.7% to be in the optimal. Nobody in a double digits in a boom percentage. For me, I will largely be missing Chicago. But if I get Vooch, Kobe White, or Zach LaVine, those are the 3 guys that I don't mind seeing show up in a lineup. I just can't anticipate having a ton of Chicago today.
Evan says in the chat here, hey guys, just pulling up like number 92 with 400 in here. Let's step it up. Anybody make any real money last night? There you go. You guys can all go back and forth on that. It's better than the arguing that we were seeing in there from Nate and the News God. Didn't like that competition. So keep on hitting the like and hang with us. We appreciate it. Here with you for about another 20 minutes. We got the DVD pull later on, which is it's quickly a crowd favorite, Josh. Also, we'll take a look at Odd Shopper, and we got a few games left to look at here for this slate tonight, including, of course, Sacramento and Memphis. So for the Kings, we start with them. Probably Rashawn Holmes would be the first guy that I'm looking at in terms of, looking at the, prices, lowest to highest, but, right there in the middle, Terrence Davis, Metu are, these guys are in great spots. Mo Harkless, you could make an argument for, probably not a Buddy Hield or DeLon Wright night. Who do you think?
I like a lot of this, but it depends on which direction we want to go. So we're not going to have Bagley. We know we don't have Fox. We're probably not going to have Barnes. No Halliburton. So Chimezie Metu is 4,200 on FanDuel, 4,100 on DraftKings. He's the chalk play on DK right now, and I totally agree with it. He's right there with the rest of those Toronto guys. I've got him in for 28 minutes at 4,100. That's a great value. I like him quite a bit too at 4,200 on FanDuel. I just think it's a little bit easier to spend up at this point. After that, I think DeLon Wright is an interesting large field GPP play. Single digits in ownership. I still expect him to play 34 minutes or something in that neighborhood, at which point he's like a 1.1 fantasy point per minute guy in a pace up spot against Memphis. I'm seeing him in I think it'd be cool to have him in 15% of lineups if he's 5 to 10% owned. I wouldn't want to go too crazy. After that, I'm very comfortable using the rest of Sacramento in my player pool, whether that's Rashawn Holmes, Buddy Hield, Mo Harkless, Terrence Davis. To me, those guys are all 10%ers. Definitely guys you want to work through, because I think this is a really interesting game for Memphis. And for most of these guys on Sacramento, I think the minutes are pretty firm.
How about for Memphis here? Some interesting plays. Kyle Anderson, obviously Xavier Tillman, Brandon Clark, these guys, it's, they've been at least felt like auto. I'm not saying anyone is an auto roster other than maybe Russell Westbrook. Those guys, though, the spots they've been in lately, they have felt like auto roster guys. You keep paying Desmond Bane, DeAnthony Melton's in a good spot. Are you drawn to some Grizzlies tonight?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, Sacramento's the worst defense in the league, so that brings out interesting plays no matter what. Ja Morant's still just 7,400 on FanDuel. He's playing a lot bigger minutes with Grizzlies having a lot to play for. So to me, Ja on FanDuel is my favorite option from Memphis. But I like Jaren Jackson if he plays. 6K on FanDuel, played 27 minutes the last time out. Sat out for rest on the front end here. So he's at 6K. I'd like to have him in 15% of lineups. Dylan Brooks is always going to look for a shot on days where it falls. And against Sacramento, that should be one of those days. I think that he can provide some value, something in the 10% range. Kyle Anderson is at 5,900 on FanDuel, 5,700 on DraftKings. I think his ownership is a little high because I don't think that we are projecting Jaren Jackson in right now, but I'm expecting Jackson to play. So I think that'll bring Kyle Anderson down a little bit. I still like Kyle Anderson, and I think that his ownership will line up a little bit more with my data. But I don't mind going to Anderson, Brooks, Jackson, Morant. Joe Val, if he's in, 8,200 and 8,100 is probably a little bit overpriced for me.
Dan T in the chat, and with a heart emoji, no less, says, you guys are my fam, and this is my favorite time of the day. Do you agree?
Yes, we are your fam. I would say that it is not my favorite time of the day, however.
What is your favorite?
But not because it's my least. Probably dinner. So whenever I finish that live before lock show, or whenever lock hits, and I can go downstairs and eat whatever my wife has prepared for me, because it also lets me know that I'm going to be able to have some of my vices and then go to sleep.
There you go. Yeah, I figured you were going to say something along the lines of once I've set my lineups and I turn off the computer and go to bed.
Yeah, pretty much.
Only
it's a long day. My mornings are long, man. My mornings are long.
You get those naps in, man.
I do, and I can't take one today, which is kind of a bummer.
Well, here's something that's not a bummer. The Awesemo Plus community, folks. The tools, the projections, they're great, but you also gain access to our premium Slack channel where you can talk strategy and other topics. You can even fight with people because, we see that a lot. Other DFS players participate in office hours with people like Josh right here and our other Awesemo experts. You can stay up to date with the latest updates and projections from Alex Awesemo Baker / Caruso himself. It's a favorite feature for many of our subscribers and an added perk to the Awesemo Plus package, along with, of course, lineup builder and fantasy cruncher, the projections, the ownership, everything that we often will recite to you. It is available for you. So if you're not a member, if you're not part of it, if you're just watching right now casually, what are you doing? Be part of that family, because this too can be your favorite part of the day. So let's go to Denver and Minnesota here. Jokic, you talked about him being your favorite player on this slate in terms of the pay up options. So he is obviously available to you and projected for in the vicinity of 60 fantasy points. You go down to Austin Rivers, Paul Millsap, always interesting. Monte Morris, super cheap. Skip some of those mid-tier guys like Porter and Gordon and Campazzo. What do you think here for Denver?
I love Denver today. This matchup is great. Nuggets still have something to play for as well. They have a 26% chance of finishing in the 3rd seed, 74 at the 4. So I'm sure they're still gunning for that number 3 seed. 10-8 on FanDuel, 11K on DraftKings for Jokic. 25% likelihood of being in the optimal. I agree with that completely, in a pace-up spot against a bad defense. Michael Porter Jr. is my number 1 contender on FanDuel today at 7,400. He's $1,200 more expensive on DraftKings. So I think Porter is the best play you can find on FanDuel today. Even at 31% ownership, I would go north of that number given the matchup. On DraftKings, we only have him projected for 7% ownership. So I actually like the idea of getting to Porter as a pay up to be contrarian option, but I'm not done there. Aaron Gordon is 3,900 on FanDuel, had a really nice game that last time out. He's projected for 20% ownership, but I do see him as a pay down value option that helps to unlock other guys like Jokic, for instance. Not as fond of Aaron Gordon for 5,100 on DraftKings. And then Facundo Campazzo, if he's still playing 34 minutes a game, he's 5,600 on FanDuel, 5,800 on DraftKings. And he's somebody that I'd like to have in the 15% range of my lineups. And that's probably 2x the field. So to me, another potential contrarian option in a fantastic spot.
Like Alan in the chat here, Towns would be like Lionel Richie, that song all night long. What do you think here from Minnesota? You going Cat? You looking at anybody for this Timberwolves squad?
No, not really. D'Angelo Russell crested the 10% ownership mark on DK. He's the only person to do so. I don't have anybody north of 10% odds of being in the optimal. Again, if you end up with Russell or Towns, those are not problems. Never be upset to get those kind of guys. We're talking about 1.2 to, in Jokic's case, or Towns' case rather, 1.4 fantasy points per minute. So those guys look fine. Anthony Edwards for 8K on DK is okay. I think Jaden McDaniels for 3,500 on DK is okay. but I'm mostly avoiding Minnesota. Denver's not really a great matchup. They're kind of slow. They're solid enough defensively. This is more of a Denver side for me than a Minnesota side.
I don't entirely know how we got on this in the chat, but now people are talking about who I look like. I've seen Paul Rudd. I've seen Tony Romo. I've seen Zach Braff.
Okay. Yeah, I get all of those. All of that makes sense to me.
All right. And just attacked for being squinty-eyed in this this early hour of the day for me.
I mean,
you just can't.
I would just be focusing on the fact that Zach Braff, Tony Romo, and Paul Rudd were my 3 comps.
Right? It's not bad.
No.
It's hard. I think
I wouldn't be mad at that at all.
Rudd out of the group.
Like in terms of wanting to be that person or wanting to look like him?
Both. I think I'd pick both.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, there's something to be said about being an NFL quarterback that is kind of fun.
Yeah.
So Romo might be the top guy, but I would have Rudd ahead of Braff. And I say that as a Scrubs fan and as a Last Kiss fan.
I mean, I could be an Avenger. That's exciting.
Yeah, but you'd be an ant, correct? Is that really the best way to go?
It's correct. But an ant that could be huge. It'd be a big
ant. Would you crawl up someone's butthole to do that and mess them up from the inside?
Would I save the world?
Yes.
I mean, listen, you got to do what you got to do to save the world. You know, sometimes these responsibilities, they just fall upon you.
Yeah.
Get on up there and you just like make them explode. Basically, it's like a scene out of the old Jeepers Creepers movies or something.
I'll be honest. I don't know anything about Paul Rudd's powers. I've never seen the movies, so I don't know what he does after he becomes an ant.
Ant-like strength, very strong. Think about.
Does he do any? Well, like how does he control becoming tiny? So yeah, you crawl up someone's butthole and then you grow and just they explode.
They just explode everywhere.
Yeah, definitely do that.
There are probably more fun ways to take somebody down, but.
I don't know. The shame of being like, oh, is that an ant? And all of a sudden it's just game over for you. I think that's kind of interesting.
Oh, is that an ant? That would be your first instinct?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't. I probably shouldn't say anything else.
Portland and Phoenix. Let's look at the Blazers, as so many of you have, you're just talking about the Blazers in another fashion all morning in the chat. Anybody you like here for Portland?
I think it's kind of wild that no one is projected for more than 6% ownership on the Blazers. To me, that's kind of silly because this is one of the few games where both teams are playing aggressively, in my opinion. Suns have a 16% chance at the 1 seed, 70 at the 2, and 12% at the 3. So their outlook is very much in flux. So they're going for it. Blazers, 35% chance of being in the 5 seed, 57 at the 6, and they still have an 8% chance of finishing in the play-in. So they're still going for it as well. So I see two teams that are going to be competing pretty heavily. One of the higher totals on the slate. Normally, I don't like attacking Phoenix, but to get to CJ McCollum or Dame Lillard today at Dame at 6% ownership on DraftKings, 4 on FanDuel. To me, this is another spot where you can pay up to be contrarian. You're expecting 37 or more minutes out of Lillard and McCollum. So I like going to those guys in large field GPPs. We're not talking about cash plays here, but I see Lillard, McCollum, even Robert Covington to an extent, maybe Nurkic at 50 or at 7,200 on DraftKings. These guys are way more in play than the ownership is showing. So I like getting a little different with Portland.
Our guy Emac in the chat, he's throwing out eyes emojis. Jordan questioning the sections and genres on the wall. That's our producer, Jordan, by the way. Man's trying to start trouble in the chat. Brian says to the both of us, or maybe just to me, I don't know, just keep on doing what you're doing. You are loved and appreciated. This is the kind of affirmation I need on a Thursday morning.
I'll need it more tomorrow, but yeah, I hear you.
It's kind of, it's important stuff. All right, let's go to Phoenix. Final team that we're talking about here of this final game. DeAndre Ayton, Frank Kaminsky. Haven't spent a lot of time this year talking about him. These guys are in good spots. Maybe not Booker, Paul, Bridges, Crowder even. What do you think based on what we know now?
So I think Chris Paul's going a little bit over-owned given the price tags, but 7,500 on FanDuel, Devin Booker, one of my favorite plays of the day. I think he's like a 15 to 20%er. I think that DeAndre Ayton is going really underrepresented at just 5% ownership. To me, he's a guy you can double up on for GPPs. And then Mikal Bridges, 5,600 and 5,800, going to play 36 minutes if this one's competitive. Somebody I'd like to have in like 10 to 15% of my lineups. It's the same story for Phoenix. Only they get a better matchup because they get to face Portland. I think that they're going to be trying to be highly competitive. I think they want to win this game. And if they do, I expect their starters to be playing their full run. I feel confident in what you can get out of both of these teams. I like having a lot of it.
Keep hitting that like button, folks. We're here with you for another 8-10 minutes, something like that. And as we've told you about the games, it is time to tell you about Odd Shopper, okay? Because one of the biggest edges in sports betting, it's always shopping to find the best line available to you. Betting lines change by the minute. They can vary greatly depending on obviously which book you're looking at. That's why it's important to use Awesemo's Odd Shopper to find the very best lines available to you on the game or player prop that you are betting on. Give you that edge that you can use to beat the house. So head over to Awesemo, oddshopper.awesemo.com. We compiled the best bets available to you for the games, lines, player props, player and team futures, everything you could possibly be interested in, updated in real time. So that being said, I will let you decide, my friend, as I pull up Odd Shopper. Would you like to take a look at player props, money line, totals, point spreads? Where would you want to go?
Let's do some player props. Shout out to No House Advantage, too.
Well, we don't know if he'll play tonight, but as of now, we're projecting him in. Kawhi Leonard, 21.5.
Oh, so while I don't really like him in DFS contests because he's a relatively low standard deviation guy, I've got him projected for 24.5 points.
That's actually where we are seeing his teammate, Paul George. Where do you have him?
23.7.
Okay, so over on one, under on the other?
Well, we'll say push on Paul George, but over considerably on Kawhi if he plays.
All right. How about Giannis at, well, it depends on the book, but let's just call it 28.
I'm currently over 32 minutes, 31.7 real points. Sorry, I read the wrong one. What was the line again? I read Jokic's line.
28. We got 28.5 is the low, 29.5 is the over. So I'm splitting the difference.
I've got him at 29.9. So I could take an over there.
Okay. How about, well, you mentioned Jokic. So where do you have him?
31.5.
31.5. And where do we see him on the books right now? Let me see. I got to scroll and find him. 27.5. So you're way over. What about
take the over?
Karl Anthony Towns, 24.5.
I got him at 25. So that one's spot on.
Someone in the chat was saying before, say Dame, say Dame. So where's Damian Lillard? Let's see. 27.5 at the only book he's showing up at right now. Where do you have him?
28.3. So I wouldn't be taking anything.
Okay. One more. How about Aaron Gordon at 11.5?
Oh boy. I got to scroll down.
That's right.
I got him at 12.1. So looks pretty good to me.
Beautiful. Steven says, hoping we can keep Koff around through the playoffs and beyond. Smash those thumbs. Steven, I'm with you. Reach out to management. Say more DVD pulls. That's why we're here. It's what we need out of this show. And with that in mind, it's about that time, folks. It's about that time on Thursday. Where are we looking? You could tour.
Alrighty.
You tour. You go lower.
I don't know where I've been in a while. So, all right, I'm ready here.
I'm ready. Go for it.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure out what is. Okay, so is that like a Celtics visor that I see in the top left?
Up here, yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna go. Obviously, not on that shelf. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shelves down.
Okay.
And let's go 7 in from the left.
From the left. Okay. All right. It's a fun.
Hold on, let me guess. Is that Coyote Ugly?
Yeah, you nailed it. Just from a distance, you nailed it.
Oh man, that's good. That's good. I can't believe I nailed that. I knew the color of the DVD case because I remember when it came out.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
I just picked Coyote Ugly. I called it without knowing it. How good is that, man?
Yeah, Tyra Banks. You got Maria Bello. Piper is in here. John Goodman, because he's in everything.
Yeah, that's
Tyra Banks.
I mean, obviously a fun movie to watch if you like eye candy. Not a great movie as far as I'm concerned, but good for the eye candy.
Good music. I enjoy the music in that movie. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It's not bad.
Yeah,
it's not bad. It's been a while. I have not seen that in a hot minute.
Yeah, no, it's a fun one. What do we have in the chat? I was just seeing if anybody was reacting to the Coyote Ugly poll.
I just knew that case. I've seen that case so much in my life that
that black case pop out and went, yes. Listen, don't fight the moonlight, Josh.
I wouldn't even know how to.
George says that was awesome. Let's see. Terrific.
Well, I'm really proud of myself for guessing that.
Curse of Blitz says we have a Coyote Ugly bar here in Nashville. Is it nearly as fun, at least pre-pandemic? Maybe it's not the same right now. Is it nearly as fun as the Coyote Ugly in the movie? That's what I want to know. Because it did become a chain after the fact.
I would never want to go to that kind of a bar.
No, that's not.
No,
not even as a single man.
No, I'd go to a strip club then. Why would I want like the PG version of the good stuff? Now, if I want to go to a bar, I just want to be at a bar. If I want girls to dance, I want them to dance in a better way than they do in Coyote Ugly.
You just feel teased is what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. What am I getting out of that?
Yeah, I mean,
nothing.
Just great music and bar fights, obviously.
I guess.
And a jealous boyfriend in there somewhere.
Yeah, it's not for me. It's not for me. I don't get it.
Plot of Coyote Ugly. Dave says, where's the Police Academy DVD? Dave, before we go, I'll do you one better. The real question should be,
what do you have, like Police Academy 4?
Where's the Police Academy collection?
Oh my God. Yeah. I didn't even know there were 5 and 6.
And 7. Which
you should have known that, man. Whatever you spent on that, you got ripped off.
It's not kind.
But it is true.
Well, I mean, you could argue I got ripped off by purchasing anything that's on the wall behind me because, streaming is a thing now.
That Ken Griffey rookie card will be fine, I guess.
Yeah. That's about it. Oh, man. All right. Very good. Here's what you got coming up over the rest of your Awesemo day. And there's a lot of Awesemo content that is coming your way. I did not intentionally go all Dr. Seuss on you right there. Coming up in about a minute, you have got MLB Live Before Lock. Start you off with a little bit of baseball. MLB Deeper Dive is at 3 o'clock. At 4, of course, this is Eastern time, the tip-off. That's where things are going to start to come together in the NBA. During that program, it's not just the projections and what we're looking at right now. You will get guys ruled out, ruled in, all that over the course of the day. Mystery starters, 4:45, then it gets real. NBA Deeper Dive, folks. And, of course, lineups locking tonight, 7 o'clock. At 6, NBA Live Before Lock. That's what you really got to be locked into because a lot of great advice and opportunity to ask questions and everything. That's where all the viewers that are here with us, you're all going to come rushing back as you should. And at 8 o'clock, MMA Strategy Show. So there you have it. There's a lot going on for you during this Thursday. And it's going to be a good one, man. They fly by. They always fly.
They really do. Hey, look, it's an easy show to do, and they're incredibly fun. So I love doing it.
So you guys should love watching it. You should. This show, Monday through Friday, at least here for the regular season, obviously finishing out, these next couple of days here, weekdays for sure, 10 o'clock Eastern. Laffy typically in this seat. I get to parachute in, as I said earlier, every once in a while, hang out with Josh, talk about movies and whatever else comes to mind. But make sure you subscribe on the Awesemo YouTube page, like the stream, like any and all shows, check out the Awesemo Podcast Network, sign up for Awesemo Plus Platinum, all that good stuff. And then next week we get into playoffs, play-in tournament, and I look forward to seeing y'all again. It'll be a good time. We want to thank our producer Jordan. Whoa, everybody in the chat! I hit my computer and it went flying. And yeah, you, my friend, get a nap in if you can find a way to wedge that in before you start to dive into whatever the day has in store for you.
I wish I could. I don't think that I can.
All right. Well, I believe in you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
He's
Later
Josh,
on, everybody.
I'm going to go watch Coyote Ugly. I'll see you guys later.